Hey Flosstube, it's Lori of Mischievous Stitches. It is Friday the 29th of June and I'm back with a quick update to let you know what I've been up to show you some stitching, some starts, some haul. So welcome to my stitch room today. Come in and have a seat and join me. I haven't made a video, an update video in about a month. I think my last one was as I returned from the New Jersey retreat and coming down from that high and sharing my purchases there. I've made a few purchases since then and I've kind of lost my stitchy mojo, but I've dove right into SAL. I am saturated with SALs right now, so that's where I'm at the moment with my stitching. Most of what I'm working on are things from different SALs that I'm participating in. This week my son-in-law is home. He is staying with us. He came in on Tuesday and he will fly out on the 5th. He will be leaving for 9 months. So he has been here and I love having him here. My daughter is just, of course, beyond happy, and next week it'll be the total opposite of that because she's going to miss him while he's away. But I'm enjoying his time, and they went to spend the day with his family today, so I had a little bit of time to myself to do a quick video. Last weekend, my husband Clint and I took a last-minute weekend trip to Beaufort, South Carolina, which I've talked about before. It's just one of our favorite places to get away to in the summer because it's only basically about 2.5 hours away from us depending on traffic. And so we take off up there for the weekend, rent a room, have an awesome meal, spend the day at the beach, walk the riverfront, just do all the fun things together and laugh and cut up. And he really is my best friend. I just enjoy spending time with him and just being laid back, and when there's no phone and there's no kids and there's no one dropping by, no laundry staring you at the face. You know what I mean. You get away from everything that is a distraction from you just spending time with each other. So we had a great time on Saturday. We left around noon, not long after he got off work, and drove up there for the day and spent most of that afternoon on Hunting Island Beach, and had a great seafood restaurant at a local place called Boondocks. We had never eaten there before, and it was amazing. We had a great time. They had some live entertainment there, and just kind of sat and talked and just enjoyed it. Both of us just really enjoyed. I laughed a lot. Then on Sunday we got up and we were going to head home, but decided to take a 30-minute detour, and we ended up in Savannah, Georgia. We did a riverboat cruise down the Savannah River, which I have never done that before. Clint laughed at me because as we took off on the boat, I headed to the top deck, but to the back of the deck. So, you know, the paddle is there, and I wasn't sure if it was just ornamental or whether it would actually paddle, and of course it didn't. And I was disappointed because I wanted to see the boat paddle, but but it didn't. But it was more of a tourist tour, so it kind of gave you a little backstory of the area, some little, tidbits of trivia, that kind of thing. I just enjoyed it. So, and then we came home that evening, back to reality, back to work and laundry and visitors and all that stuff. So I look forward to our next weekend together. So until then, what about what I'm working on? I joined or rejoined my local EGA. They are currently working on a piece, and I've talked about this in a previous video, but they are working on a piece called Ambrosia Honey. And it actually was published, I think it was in multiple issues of the magazine that is part of your dues to joining the EGA is your subscription to this magazine. So when I mentioned this in a last video, thank you to those of you that let me know that there is a EGA Facebook page for those that are stitching Ambrosia Honey. And this is my small start. Now, there are two groups within my EGA here locally, an AM group and a PM, and I'm part of the PM group, which is the Twilight Stitching Bells. The AM group's just the Stitching Bells. And they are, of course, a lot further along than I am. And the meetings are held at one of the members' homes, and her walls. She is a cross stitcher too, but she does a lot of needlepoint. So they had lots of tips and tricks and things to let me know, to get me started. At the last meeting, one of them had picked up the canvas for me and the stretcher bars and the tacks, and she brought some of this painter's tape for me to place on the edge of my canvas. And in cross stitch we don't do that primarily. I know in the past some of the kits would suggest that the stitcher put the tape on the edge of it, and I never understood why, because I didn't start out that way. But I know with this it's necessary, because you hear that? This is a harder, those that aren't familiar with canvas, it is hard. It's like a new fresh piece of witched fabric. It's just stiff. And so the edge are going to be jagged, so as you're trying to sew, I could imagine that your threads are going to get caught in the edges of that canvas, which would be the reason to make sure they were taped. And that's just my opinion, because I'm new to this canvas work. I have done one other canvas piece, and it was a Christmas ornament when I was a member of this same guild several years ago. So I'm learning as I go at this point. Now, I did the basting line at the last meeting, did the stretching of the canvas over the bars, got tips on that, such as, you know, marking which side is up, and actually it's this side. But I've got a T written up there. What I have learned with this, I'm working with a pearl cotton, and it has a twist to it, a visible twist. I think all threads have twists to it, but this has a visible twist to the pearl cotton. And I have learned that as I am stitching, that the way I'm pulling the needle through and twisting just with my fingers, I'm putting extra twist to that. So as I'm stitching with it, because these are over 4 canvas threads, so let me give you a closer look. They're over 4 canvas threads, and I am given a twist of my own. I can see that in the way these threads lay on this canvas, and I don't like it. I did hear one of the members mention that they use a laying tool, and I don't know that I need that here. I would think a laying tool would maybe be for when you're using multiple strands, but I'm only using one. The other thing is, I've learned that you don't use long lengths of thread, and when I'm cross stitching, I usually pull, I'm a bobbinator, and I pull thread off, unwind off my bobbinator, and I usually pull it to here, and it's just a habit I've done over time. I pull it to here, and when I've got this kind of length, I cut it off. So I'm thinking, what is this, about 18 inches? More like a foot, maybe 12 inches is what you would use for this. And because this fabric is stiffer than what we use to cross stitch, it was starting to fray and really pull at. Like if you've got a girl with curly hair and you curl her hair and it goes from laying down flat to poof, that's the way the thread was looking towards the end of the length. So I had to pull some out. But anyway, I'm learning, and I'm going to continue to learn because this is my first piece, and that's what makes it exciting. I'm a little out of my knowledge zone. I'm not uncomfortable with it because I know I can do it, but I'm out of my knowledge zone. But it feels good. So I look forward to showing you more progress on this in my next video. What else? Since my last video, I visited with my friend Mary. I did do a video with those that were there during, she hosted a small little getaway weekend for some of us friends. And we drove up and spent 3 days and 2 nights with Mary. And she had tasked those of us that were there to make 4 new starts over the weekend, and that we would change projects every 2 hours. And it sounded like a great thing, so I brought this huge thing of my current projects from Mania, and we didn't get much of that done. It seemed like I was the one that was doing the timing, and I would forget to set the timer, or Mary would get up to be the hostess and prepare a meal or whatever, and I would forget to turn the timer off. We did switch projects, but we got little done. We were exploring Mary's room, being enabled by some of the beautiful projects she has there and has kitted and has hanging on her walls. While we were there, one of the starts that I had made was on this, because Mary had gifted us all this as a kit while we were there. And at our next get-together, we are going to assemble these together. So I've got this, and here's my small start. So I've got to get to work. I'm not finished on it. And once again, look how dark, look how bright and spring-like that is, and then look at the colors here. We say this all the time. I know the designers, there's no way they're doing this intentionally. It's just photography does not capture. It's just like with a sunset. Yes, the pictures are beautiful, but there's nothing like seeing the sunset with your eyes. And it's the same with these. So that's that piece. So that was one of my starts at Mary's. And then I had this start, which is his eyes on the sparrow. And I'm not going to show the picture of it because most every one of you have seen it. But I had a very small start on this. And this is it. It goes like this. That's my small start on his eyes on the sparrow. And look at this. One of our commenters, and I know she comments on many others as well on their YouTubes, but is Chili Pepper, I think it's 5353. She told me that I was a sucker for big projects or for BAPs, and she is definitely right about that. I don't know what it is. I'm drawn to the huge pieces, and I can see even with the Hades, I can see the attraction to those, and maybe one day I'll do the one. There's a couple that I would like to do. I don't own them, but would like to do. But I see the draw to the Hades. I can't put it into words, but I get you. One of my other starts at Mary's was the Prayer of St. Francis, and it is a Lizzie Kate, and this is it here. And I had changed up the colors a little bit when I kitted this up last year. And this is my small start. And this is on 36 count, I believe. Yes, 36 count flax. And I really like this. So that was my third start. So his eyes on the sparrow and this one. And I don't remember what my fourth one was. I'll run across it possibly. I worked on Faith, Hope, and Love, which is a work basket piece. And I'm stitching it with 37.99. And this is my work on this one. I think I worked this band going down here and almost got it done before my 2 hours were over. And I'm enjoying this one. And that's the hard thing about Mania for me. I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it the first time I did it. I'm so glad I tried it a second time. It was hard to put my pieces down, and now I'm finding it hard because I have so many started. It's choosing one that I want to focus on, because there's several that I want to focus on. And I guess I could just, eeny, meeny, miny, moe, or flip a coin. But that's what I'm finding, that I'm finding the aftermath for Mania is difficult. I've also continued working on Jacob's, one of the samplers that my Jacob had chosen for the beginning of the year, and that is Forever Young by Heartstring Samplery. And I am 2/3 complete. And this is it. and this starts the bottom piece. So I am beginning the part with the huge fruit basket that I love. So this is where I am. You can see this is the start of one of those trees. But I did this band and some of the blue down the edges while we were at Mary's. So I'll continue to work on that. That will definitely be a finish for this year. I put a few, and what I mean is a few. I don't even know if you can tell. I should have went back and looked in my videos, but this is Birds of a Feather by Blackbird Design. I'm stitching along on this one with Jen from Jen's Stitching Niche, and I basically think I finished the circular part of this flower before I switched. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but even if you're on a timer and you're spending more time shopping online and chatting and laughing and munching. Now Mary had some snacks on the table for us while we were there, and one of them were, I don't know if they were candy, I want to say they were candy coated coffee beans, and I had never had those, and they were delicious. I don't think that they were chocolate and then candy. I think they were just candy coated, and they were wonderful. So I kept munching on those. Might be why I got so hyped up while I was there. This is another stitch along. This is Birds of a Feather. And it seems like great minds think alike, because I heard a couple of you mention how you were putting the names or the initials of those who were stitching in the stitch along. I thought the very same thing, so I'm not that far along, but one of the first ones I put in there is BS. Well, that didn't sound good, did it? It's, sorry, you know who you are, but this is your Flosstube initial, and this, of course, is our very own sweet Bendy Stitchy. So this is her initials as the first one in my piece. I was initially going to try to do eyelet stitches, because you've got the blocks of 4 or 2 by 2 stitches in here, but it just didn't work out. It didn't look right on this one, so I just went back to the regular, but I've gotten a little more done on this one. And this one is just so bright and cheery and happy. I really like this one. What else do I have? Okay, so you see, stitch along, stitch along, stitch along. And then on the 23rd, which was last Saturday, that was packed in my gold getaway bag. This is my getaway bag. When I go somewhere, whether it's to work, on a weekend trip, this bag, this slender little Vera bag, is stuffed with a book, a magazine, and a stitch project. And I took this one along with me because this is a stitch along that's hosted by Lynette of Homesteading on the Home Front, that started last weekend, and I haven't stitched recently, but I have it kitted up and ready to go, and I'm going to make a start on it this weekend. So if you're not already participating and want to join in, it's just here on Instagram, and I think the hashtag is just Quaker Handwork, SAL. But this is one that started last Saturday, that I will be starting this Saturday. And this is a stitch along that, while I was at Mary's, we all had this pattern and decided that we were going to start it, and we weren't going to show each other our progress until the 14th of June. And this is Time and Season by Maura Blackburn, and this is where I got on mine. This is a 40 count fabric. I'm stitching 1/2, and I've dated it, so it's going to be finished. I am using, and I see a couple spots, like right here on that R. You see where that thread's trailing? I'm doing something with this one. This is the back. But I'm doing something on this one that I have not done Is that the back? It is the back, but because I'm holding it and the camera giving me the backwards reflection, it looks like I'm holding it, holding the front. But I'm using a stand, an LBC stand that clips to my table that I pull here, and so I'm not flipping the piece over. And I don't have many of those little mess ups, but if I get like a small knot on the back, of course I'm not catching it. Sometimes you can tell just by pulling the thread through, you realize that your thread is not as long as it should be. I think it's more of a feel thing. But anyway, I didn't catch that one. And there's a couple more in there. But this is the piece, and I'm loving it. And it will be finished this year. But I started this with Donna, Natasha, and Mary. And we have 3 more stitch-alongs coming up that we're going to be working on together. So on the 1st, we are starting the lead sampler. And this piece was inspired by Lisa Kindred Stitcher. She was working on this at the New Jersey retreat. And of course, Mary had recently bought it, I think because she had seen Lisa's progress, because I think Lisa is one of her favorite floss tubers. She just is inspired by so much that Lisa does. So she had this kitted up. So I ordered it while we were at Mary's, and I purchased this fabric. It's a Witchell, but it is called Water Lily. And here are the threads that go with it. So I'm kind of on the fence. I like the color of the fabric. But you see, this is done on like maybe a gray. What is this done on? And I know that the pictures aren't nowhere near accurate most times. It's done on Picture This Plus Helix. And that is a beautiful fabric, and it looks to be maybe a gray or a blue-gray. But I'm using green, and I'm unsure of how the greens are going to pop on a green fabric. We'll see, won't we? Beautiful piece. So we'll be starting that together on the 1st, which is just a couple days away. And then on the 4th, we're going to do a patriotic piece. So I just chose to work on this, and it's In Full Glory by Blackbird Designs. And it's just one of the little pin pillows. I don't think it's very big at all. It's actually 65 by 81. So yeah, something I can fit into a pin pillow. So that's the one we'll start on the 4th. And then on the 7th, I'll be visiting with Mary again, and we are going to do a Christmas in July start. And I'm starting this one. So yes, I'm saturated in SALs. Yes, it is self-induced. I think Mania has overflowed into June and created Junia, and then we are creating Stitch-Alongs Julia. I've got a few new pieces that I've picked up, and one is just a now you see this come from an estate sale. And this needs to be glued. It's loose. And someone spray painted it, looks like it. They spray painted it gold at one time, and now it's just tarnished. And I've got some work to do on this, but I really like it. It's just on my bookshelf. It's just a pretty. It serves no purpose. But it was $2, and I just really like it, so I got this. Now, I don't know what this is. Was it a planter at some point? Did it have, I don't know what purpose that hole served at some point, but that was just a estate sale find. And also, while at Mary's, I did a little shopping. We inspired one another. We enabled one another. We laughed with one another. And the purchases that I made were heartstring sampleries. So here's a few, and the first one is Shooter's Hill. Love those orange and yellow flowers. Love them. That is what sold me on this one. I also got Victoria's Garden, and I think the original is on the bottom and the reproduction's on the top. Isn't that beautiful? And then I saw someone on Instagram is currently stitching this one, and I love the yard. I could cut this stuff out. It would throw it off balance, but this isn't necessary to me. It's all about this. This is just absolutely gorgeous. I also was inspired by my friend Jen at Jen's Stitching Niche, and this is a piece that she started and finished. I don't know if she finished it in Mania or shortly thereafter, but this is a Bees Gathering, and it's a needle case or needle roll. How do they call that? It doesn't say. And I just think it's beautiful. Now, the picture, it's beautiful. And then go over to Jen's Stitching Niche. I think it was not her most recent video, but either 2 to 3 videos back where she showed her finish. And it is gorgeous. So I picked up that and this from her. And these are the Lizzie Kate Flora Mix Samples stockings, and this is the 2014. They come with charms, buttons, and beads. And I really want to stitch this one. I'll probably stitch them all and do little ornaments. I also picked up this one. I was going to use this as my patriotic start for the stitch along with the girls, and I may hold off and do this one next year, but I really like this one. And these two come from the sweet Lisa, the Silver Stitcher. She saw these, picked them up, and thought of me and sent them to me. And this is Queen's Grace Sampler by the Sampler Works. Look at the white work at the bottom. I hope you can see that in the camera. This is just beautiful. And the good thing about going back into EGA, they do a lot of samplers with cut work and things like this, so I can gain more knowledge on that as well. And let's face it, when you're a room full of stitchers of different ages, you all have the same passion for the stitching that you're doing. There is so much knowledge of that room because we all have knowledge in different areas. And it's great to try something new and to be in a room with women who are familiar with it and get all the good tips and tricks. That's one of the great things of not just retreats, but just stitching get-togethers and EGA groups, is just tapping into the knowledge of other stitchers, other ladies and gentlemen that are there. And there's also the drawn thread piece was another one from Lisa, and this is the Spring Garden. So thanks so much, Lisa. I love both of them. I'm going to continue this week to work on my Ambrosia Honey and to learn as I stitch it. I'm going to, more than likely, I'll pick up Time and Season again. I'm going to make a start on Quaker Handwork. And I'm going to look forward to next weekend when I get to spend a little time with my friends again. So until you see me again, I hope everyone has a great weekend. I hope you're enjoying the sun. I know a lot of us out here in the Americas are getting lots of rain, but we'll appreciate it in the coming months. But just enjoy your summer, enjoy your family, and happy 4th of July. See you soon. Bye-bye.